Hey, it's Aaron Stelle here with West. I am excited to be joined here by Justin Harnish with Harnish Properties, who has been the #1 agent in Oregon for 10 out of the last 11 years. And, he's not the kind of person that will ever say that, but it is something that's really hard to do. He's been dominating the real estate world and been really an industry in and of himself and with his family and his team in Lake Oswego. And really, the luxury market is where he has thrived and always really kind of set himself apart. And so I just want to start off saying, Justin, thank you so much for taking the time, and I really appreciate you being on here with me.
It's all I got is time right now, buddy.
Yeah, it's a little different world than what we've been in the past, and I know one thing that you've done that I've really appreciated is you've been very transparent in saying that, this has definitely affected your business. And, you've reached out to realtors and you've done some interviews, but, give me a quick little rundown, like how has this affected you and your business?
Well, when the stock market first reacted to this whole thing, we got hit pretty hard. We lost, I think we had maybe 14 million in escrow. I think I said 12 in another podcast, but we lost 10 million of that. And a lot of that was, stock market related, job related, fear related, and all of it was very respectable. I get it. It was hard, but it was a challenge. So that forced us to, then I guess 2 weeks goes by, and as you're just processing terminations and dealing with pain, you kind of just say, okay, now we get to this point. Here we are 2-3 weeks later, and we're beginning to realize to learn how to live with it, and to look at ourselves living with it, and having to figure out how that looks. So how does living with it look? Well, that's the new normal is, okay, last week, if I look at last week and I look at my schedule last week, it was pretty open. If I look at my schedule this week, we're much busier. Now, busy is a relative term to everybody's business, right? It depends. So if I'm just thinking about Harnish Properties, we are busier, much busier than we were last week. Today's schedule was exciting. I literally sent an email to my team and said, oh my gosh, we're busy again. And again, busy is a relative term, but we've got, we put 2 homes into escrow over the last couple of days that were 1.7 and 1.8. We have a second showing on a house that we just listed 2 days ago at 2 million. Today we have 2 buyers in town tomorrow and the next day with other brokers that are showing our properties at 2.5 million. We've got a very interested party at 3 million. So it's like, okay, this is just beginning to build on itself from in the last few days, right? So what's the new normal, right? And how do you operate your business differently? Well, you got to wear the mask, wear the gloves, wear the booties, have a sanitation protocol for showings, and you just have to live that life. And if you look at last week, how many people were wearing masks just out and about, right? Very few. If you look at this week, it's like 80% of the people that you see that are out and about walking and going to the grocery store and those things are wearing masks. So people are becoming more comfortable with that new normal and with what it takes to get out. And I think that as people get more used to living with it, they will begin to come back out and look at real estate and, related things.
Yeah. With that, have you done anything specifically where you've implemented a process or a tool or anything, either with your listings or with your buyers, to really just have your COVID plan, for lack of a better term, that's just different than what it was in the past?
Yeah, we did. And I know some other companies and brokers did as well, but we upload to every listing sanitation protocol. And it just basically says that you need to wear a mask, you need to wear gloves. Children are not allowed inside the home unless it's a second showing. Shoes need to come off outside the house or wear booties. And then all of those items need to be disposed of. So what we're doing is we bought sort of an assembly line of things, rubber gloves, masks. They're harder to come by, but they're, the surgical masks. So, but we do have a bunch of them. And then booties, I got a bunch of 300 pack of booties. And we're just basically creating, and then wipes, creating a little giveaway pack that says, here you go, at each listing, there you go. You're going to put that on before you go show the house, and we're going to do so as well. So it's just preparation. Most people, most brokers, if they're coming with the buyer, they're coming in a separate car, which, you know, was pretty typical of today anyway. In the last few years, people don't ride with the broker as much as they once did. So it's not that different. And then getting to the house, you know, getting them, most people come with their own equipment and walk in. But again, they want to protect themselves too, right? You're not just protecting the seller, you're protecting yourself. So
Yeah.
I think,
If you adopted, so those are kind of the standard, you know, clean living settings that everybody's having to do. Have you adopted any kind of new technologies or anything as far as your marketing goes at all?
yes and no, but yes, and in process, I should say. You know, I mean, I was never really that big of a fan of Matterport, because I think it's, you know, it's just not my thing, but I've begun using it.
Okay.
You know, and so on a couple of listings, and we're really upping our game in the video space, having my videographer do more. We used to be more of a tease. My philosophy was tease them, you know, just to get them in the house. Now it's give them everything they need.
Yep.
You know, so show every facet of the house in the video. So videos are getting longer, which, you know, the idea was keep it short because people's attention spans. Well, now people have a lot of time on their hands, so they're looking at a full length
Right.
video. So, you know, it's just kind of rethinking those things, but a lot of Zoom conversations, a lot of virtual meetings, FaceTime meetings, a lot of phone conversation, doing paperwork over Zoom and different things where you're, you know, as if you're sitting at a desk doing it together type of thing. So yeah, I mean, I think we've all had to adapt to the time, and um, it hasn't been that bad. I mean, certainly I would rather sit with somebody in their house and chat with them and talk to them, but you know, it's worked.
Yeah. So, you know, along those lines, kind of a two-part question. Like, one, you know, have you seen this impact luxury differently than kind of other segments of the market? And two, like, what are the things that you're doing now? You know, one of our conversations offline was a little bit about how some of this is just going to become the new normal. Like, what are the things that you think become, you know, lasting? Like, this just becomes the way that real estate is done. And what do you think will go back to normal?
Well, you know, I would say that I think the virtual, the ability to meet virtually is going to be more acceptable. So to be able to have this conversation over, you know, online is going to be more. That's the part that hasn't been that bad. I can still see your face. I can still see your eyes. I can still see your smile. And it'd be better to sit here and talk and look at each other in the eye than through a mask, right? Where you
Absolutely.
can't see the smile, where you can't see the look, you know, so all of that stuff. So I think that this becomes more acceptable and more normal. And but you know, at the same time, you still need to walk inside of a house. You know, you still need to see that view and hear the sounds of the house. You know, some houses are closer to traffic, some houses are closer to trains. You just need to be able to be a part of that house and to feel the energy of the home, and you can't do that virtually. So
Right.
you know, there's certain things that just won't change. You know, people have bought sight unseen, you know, very, you know, it doesn't happen very often, but it happens. And you hear more horror stories about buying something sight unseen than you hear, you know, great stories. So, you know, I think that the technology and all of that stuff becomes more normal and evolves into more standard practice. But at the same time, the industry itself has to, um, you know, still maintain its, you know, the personal touch. And as far as the market goes, like I said, all of those numbers that we're seeing right now are as of this week. You know,
Okay.
last week it was very different. So under $1 million was much more active than over $1 million. Well, now all of a sudden we're starting to see with stabilization. I mean, look at the stock market is hovering at 24,000, and it's, you know, you get the 100 to $500 or 500 point bumps, and that's, you know, sort of dragging along the bottom potentially. You know, I mean, we could see some more volatility, but with stabilization in that comes stabilization in society. And as far as financial, people start to feel more comfortable. So we're seeing more people come out in the higher price ranges that are looking and saying, okay, I'd like to take advantage of rates. I'd like to take advantage of possibly this time. That's a conversation that's an interesting one. How does this affect pricing? But we can go there if we want to. But I think
Yeah, I would love to hear your opinion. Like, what do you like if you're trying to, prognosticate, like what does the luxury market look like, whatever, 60, 90 days down the road, or even 6 months from now, when hopefully we're all kind of back to whatever normal life looks like? Like, what do you think that will do to pricing?
Well, if you sent me that podcast that was Pat Stone in a conversation, and Pat, who I respect incredibly, I have an incredible amount of respect for, and he's one of the smartest guys I've spoken to, and I believe, and if you look at what over year after year, when you go to his economic forecast, he almost nails it every time, right? Now, you can't forecast COVID, but at the same time, within COVID, looking at how things are going to come out, his perception, and it was a couple weeks ago, but I still think it's pretty valid, was that first quarter obviously sucked. Second quarter is going to be really rough because numbers are going to get reported, and we're going to see, the second quarter is going to be pretty bad. Third quarter is going to begin to normalize. Fourth quarter is going to be strong. First quarter of 2021 should be strong as well. So it's kind of that check mark, coming out of. And so if you look at that and how that's going to affect pricing, I don't know that there will be enough time where we're in this period to create this big slump in pricing. And I just, yes, unemployment, yes, you look at all those numbers, but does that affect the luxury space and actually make prices come down on the wholesale? I don't think so. I think there will be some effect, but I don't think it's going to be like 30%. I think it's going to be one of these things that situation by situation, you'll see somebody get a good deal because they asked for the good deal, and the person who was selling the house had to sell it for some reason, right? Unemployment, loss, needed to move, and somebody got a smoking deal. You will see that, but you see that in every market anyway, right? And so no matter how good or bad the market is, there is that story everywhere. So I don't think it becomes across the market type of thing. There will be effects. I just don't think they're going to be massive. We were going along so strong, and then this is a reset. Okay, so let's reset. Everybody, I think sellers will be reasonable. I think buyers will be reasonable. There will be that buyer out there who attempts to take advantage and says, yeah, I'm going to, hey, this is hard times and I'm going to lowball. And maybe they hit a home run. I don't know, but I think most of the time the sellers are going to say, hey, listen, this is a world problem. This isn't a Lake Oswego luxury real estate problem. So so I don't think it's a massive, I think we'll be back to a comfortable, stabilized marketplace at some point in the near future.
Yeah, which will be nice. I was talking to an agent yesterday, and he had a bunch of data, and he was saying that currently listings in the Portland market and what they're seeing are selling for 99.4% of list value. So, I mean, it's not like they're suddenly taking a bath, and, inventory is still tight really across all the different markets. So it's going to be curious. I am curious, but I'm following the same people as you. Obviously, Pat is somebody that knows a lot, and Noah Blanton, our president here of the Oregon operation, he's on all kinds of earning calls and watching things, and he kind of has a very similar opinion. So one last thing for you. One of the things we've really looked at, and one of the things I've always admired, about you, is that you always do, you do a lot for the community. You're very involved with, trying to better Lake Oswego as a town. How do you balance, kind of the person and the people COVID kind of community response versus, all right, I still need to do business, and how have you gone about that?
Well, I mean, just start with my neighbors, right? We live in a neighborhood where a lot of our neighbors, we've been here 15 years in this current home, and a lot of our neighbors that are just right around us are in their 60s, 70s, retired. And so just starting with them, it's just checking in on them. How are they doing? Do we, at the very beginning when the fear was the worst, it was, hey, can we go to the store for you? Can we grab something for you? Can we take, what can we do? And they want to keep their distance from us and our kids, and we get that, but it's like, hey, you know what? And so then as that, you kind of take care of your circle and your family and your closest, then you begin to kind of reach out and check on your clients and your friends and your family and the people outside. And then that begins to grow and grow and grow. And with more time on our hands, I told my team, I said, just reach out to people, just call people, just touch base, just make sure they know that you're thinking about them. And it makes you feel good too, and as time has gone on, I mean, I've connected with some people from my past that I haven't talked to in 20 years and had hour-long conversations with, and loved it.
Yeah.
So I think, and then as you look at Lake Oswego, and Lake Oswego does have, everybody thinks Lake Oswego is just, on its in the bubble and you can, nothing affects anybody. But there's a lot of people here that are in the school district that really, that the school food was very important to their family, right? Being fed at the school and then having the time to go, and so then, and having the time away from their kids so that they could go to work and do all that stuff. Well, now they, they're at home and their consumption is much more. So there's a Hunger Fighters program that's been started here in Lake Oswego that is doing really well. That's buying gift cards from local businesses. So it helps local businesses, and then the gift card goes to the families, and so that they can, provide food and all of that stuff. So, I think in this type of situation, your first thought is, okay, how am I going to take care of myself and my family? And then it's like, okay, well, I got to make sure I got to check on everybody else. It just grows. So I think that, and I think that most humans, I think it's human nature to think that way. So I think everybody kind of collectively says, that's why this whole we're all in it together is absolutely true. I mean, you can't not believe that, right? So I don't know. I've been really proud of this, how this community has rallied around. And like I told you, that gentleman that was essentially patient zero, I think, in Oregon, and that's pretty close to zero, was an employee of Lake Oswego Schools and was an employee of our kids' elementary school. And so, and I started a GoFundMe for him and his family, and it went to 25,000 real quick. And that was before COVID was everywhere, right? I mean, it was way before that. So you couldn't do that for everybody. But this family has reached out to me, and they're just like, you have no idea what that did for our family, because we didn't have any money. We couldn't access money. And then the 25,000, saved our lives, in a certain way. And so it was just like, and that was not me. I started it, but the community rallied around it, right? And so it was really cool. And it was just a cool story. It was a really feel-good thing, and everybody could feel good about it because everybody contributed to it. And it was just really neat. So it's just, that is sort of a microcosm of what I think is going on around the country. People got to back each other up.
Yeah, and I think that's what's been, it's funny, for all of the times that we as a country can feel, divisive and divided, especially when you get into political things and stuff like that. Like, you get into situations like this, and it really does remind you that we have so much more in common than we do, that divides us and separates us. And, the times of crisis oftentimes are when we do rally together and come together, and it's cool to see. It really is cool to see.
And you think about the reset button, right? It's a reset button economically. Yeah, that happened, but it's a reset button for your family. You really sit back and you go, okay, I'm spending a lot of time with these kids and my wife, and I love it. And then a reset button for your business, where you have time now to sit back and go, okay, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What can I implement going forward? So this reset button isn't just, the stock market. It is literally from your toes to your head. I mean, it's like, really take the time to be introspective, and because you have the time, you're not bothered by everyday life, and to connect with people, to connect with your family, to connect with yourself, to connect with your business. It really is, it's been a healthy Now I don't want it to ever happen again, but but
Yeah.
it's been somewhat healthy, So I don't know. I think you just try to find the silver lining in every situation, and I think that would be it for me.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that like you can look at what it's for me anyway. And I think a lot of people feel this way. It's shown you needs versus wants, and like the things
Hmm.
where you're like, these are the things I really need. And here are some of the things that I thought were important that I realized I just don't really need that much.
Yeah.
And so it has been a good reset button and a good way to kind of reprioritize.
Well, yeah, and think about how, you're going at it, yeah, 100 miles an hour, and for the last 10 years we've all had great success, and your money is coming in, and homes are selling, and you're looking at marketing opportunities, and your disposable income is up, and then it just goes and shuts off, right? It's like, okay, there's your reset button for how you're living your life, what you're doing, what you're spending, and how you're doing it. I mean, we literally are scrutinizing everything. We're teaching our children that, hey, you need to live. I literally said to somebody the other day, I was talking to a guy who was talking to me about some different marketing, and I said, hang on, let me check my budget. I don't think I've ever said that before in my life, right? I was like,
Yeah.
did I just say that? And I was like totally serious. I kind of chuckled, and I thought, hey, this is good for me. This is good for my business. This is good for my family. That's when it hit me. I was like, okay. So it's one of those things. It's like, all right, I don't know. I see it as a positive and a negative.
I totally understand that. Well, hey, I know you've got stuff coming up here shortly, and so I do appreciate you taking some time with me. I'm excited to see, how things continue to progress. Obviously, being in touch with you and seeing what you do, to continue to be the leader that you are, and really just I can't thank you enough. So thanks for your time there, Justin.
Thanks, buddy. All right, keep in touch.